some great grandchildren here and there are others. But when they get old enough to come and ask me, what was I talking about when I said that GD, then I'll explain it to them. Does everybody know about Mississippi? Because Mississippi's record of discrimination, prejudice, racism, and lynching was so far greater than that of the other states, it stood head and shoulder above the other states until no way you could miss it. Is that why everybody knows about Mississippi? Was it because black boys and black men here in Mississippi were kicked, beaten, and thrown into jail for not bowing their heads and stepping off the sidewalk when approaching white people, and even killed for looking in the face of a white woman, charged with eyeball rape? Maybe it was because black Mississippians would say, in Mississippi, so you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. So, with that being the case, then you might as well do something. I remember one of our great leaders in the civil rights movement would always from time to time say, he said, do something. He said, do something even if you are wrong. Do something, be found doing something. Never allow yourself to be doing nothing. That leader that I'm talking about, who was deeply entrenched in the work, his name was Vernon Damon. He would always tell you that. I also want to let us know that between 1880 and 1940, I know she said I was going to talk about 46 to 64, but you know, for the most part, I've not been a conformist. Bear with me. So between that period of 1880 and 1940, nearly 600 Mississippi black people were lynched, and there were no convictions. So 600 within that period and no conviction. Between 1940 and 1950, we got up out of here. So I ain't gonna take it no more. I'm getting out of here. Upwards of 300,000 black people got up out of Mississippi. Looking at what's going on with these kinds of things in Mississippi, we can better understand Bob Moses' point when he said, when you are in Mississippi, the rest of America just does not seem real. And when you are in the rest of America, Mississippi does not seem real. And many of us here today that have been in Mississippi in the South, we know and have felt and seen that same kind of reality. We know that feeling, and we can detail detailed experiences that underlines Bob's sentiment. Now, before I go too far, I want to acknowledge that we have come a distance. Got a long way to go, but we've come a distance. How do I know? Because The city government of Jackson is predominantly black, and it's led by a black governor. I mean, a black mayor. Just let me know where we're headed. You can take a hint. It's led by a black mayor who has come to us and welcomed us. Back in 1964, the mayor of Jackson welcomed us. Mayor Allen Thompson, but he welcomed us with the heavily armed police, a posse, and a murderous so-called riot control vehicle known as Dr. Latner and the rest of us said earlier, Thompson's Tank. That was Jackson State, which is now, instead of a college, it's a university, which once expelled Dr. Latner here and her sister, Dory, Dr. Dory, along with a number of other students. In addition to expelling them, they also cut out the student government because of the protest that those students were doing. But now Jackson State welcomes us, Dr. Latner and all of the rest of us. We're welcome to Jackson State. Now, when it comes to a certain school that's my alma mater, I won't reveal the name right now. But if you press me, I'll say when it comes to Tougaloo College, where we are now, has always been at the forefront of the freedom struggle. And for decades, Tougaloo was under great white supremacist pressure of all kinds that does not exist anymore. There was a state legislator from Tallahatchie County by the name of Brad Dye, who was in the state legislature. He authorized or offered a piece of legislation that would take Tougaloo's charter and prevent Tougaloo from existing. The state, that was not successful, but the state rewarded him because the state elected Brad Dye to be the lieutenant governor of Mississippi. So, without going into further details, in case some of you don't know, the 1964 Summer Project didn't just come from nowhere. It was not just dropped out of the sky, but it was part of a continuous stream of black struggle that goes back to the days of slavery, all the way back to slavery. And one of the major instruments way back then in slavery that our people used in their attempt to free themselves was music. Some of the songs are still with us today. And I'll just mention a few. Number one was the drinking gourd. How many of us know about the drinking gourd? Let me see your hand. Okay. Now, how many of us know what the drinking gourd was? How many of us can find it today? All right. Say, Bob Zellner says, the stars You look at it, it's shaped to show you how tactful and smart our folks was. The drinking gourd. That was also a gourd that was used as a dipper for black folks to drink water from. So it had a twofold piece. But this drinking gourd that we talking about was the stars, made up of 7. 3 made up the tail, and 4 made up the cup. That was the drinking gourd. And the drinking gourd would give you directions if you were obedient. And it would lead you to an old man. Now, how many of us know about the old man? Maybe I can help a little bit of you out. As a part of the drinking gourd, in the song it says, follow the drinking gourd, follow the drinking gourd, for the old man is a-waiting for to carry you to Canaan. Follow the drinking gourd. The old man is waiting. They interchanged the word Canada for Canaan. Now, Paul Robeson, our brother, he made it clear in terms of who the old man was, right? Because he said with his beautiful voice, and it's unfortunate I don't have Owen here today to let him drop a line, but the brother would say, "Oh, man, it just keeps on rolling along." That old man river was the Mississippi River, because if you took your instructions from the drinking gourd in the sky, it would lead you to where you would come in contact with the Mississippi River. And when you put those two songs together, you're going to follow the drinking gourd till you get to the Old Man River, the Mississippi River. Where does it end? Where? Just north of there into Canada. You could go to Canada and you get out of these United States where you had all of these things happening. But this is one of the things that our people used, was to send messages through songs. But the Old Man River is the one, and it kept flowing. But the most important message was not so much the water river, but the river of people that was trying to get out of here and free themselves. It just kept flowing, going north, going north. As that river went north, the water river that we know just kept flowing south, kept flowing south. So these were songs that were sang. Wade in the water, steal away. We sing those songs today, and many of us don't know the meaning that came with those songs, or the meaning behind those songs. You know, many people don't know and understand that in Steal Away, the slave described very clearly what the condition would be like when they would attempt to make their move. You know, and we that was a part of the civil rights movement know that it's important to not let everybody know what's going on. You speak in codes. Because we had some of them that would go tell the white folks what was happening on us, the white folks that was not with us, but those that were against us. So they described it And most people, when it's storming real hard, they get scared. A lot of us didn't realize that one of the ships that John Hawkins used to bring us from over there was named Jesus. And that's the one that won't steal away to. That ship. During the time when it was storming. Why you say storming? Because they said very clearly, their God called them by the thunder. Their God called them by the lightning. The call of the trumpet was in their hearts. And that was the call. And they even made it even clearer when they said green trees would be bending. I've never seen green trees bend unless it's a storm or something that's taking place. So these songs had very, very important meaning for all of us. Now, I want all of us to also acknowledge the fact that those of us that got involved in the civil rights movement in the late 50s and early 60s, we had a foundation to stand on. There were already a movement in place that we joined on to. To name a few, we're talking about people like Miss Ella Baker, Amza Moore, Aaron Henry, Medgar Evers, C.C. Bryant, Susie Ruffin, E.W. Steptoe, C.O. Ching, Winston Hudson, Vernon Damer, and Reverend V.R. Carter. Just to name a few. I also want to give recognition and acknowledgement to one of the most overlooked, important group of people. Strong men that were freedom fighters. I'm talking about the World War II veterans. For those that might not know, I just want you to know that some 80,000 soldiers from Mississippi in World War II were black. They were black. They changed the climate of Mississippi as well as the climate for the South. Having fought the Germans, the Japanese, the Italian overseas under the banner of democracy, they were not about to accept the lack of democracy at home. Men like Amza Moore, Doc Henry, and Medgar Evers registered or attempted to register. Charles Evers once stated that World War II woke a lot of us up. Another veteran said, while overseas in combat, we were fighting for something that we didn't have ourselves. And they were determined to not allow that to survive very long. Now, in 1943, after a certain in 1943, a serious tragedy took place in Mississippi. A serious tragedy took place. At that time, there was an army base in Jefferson County, Mississippi, down just on the outskirts of what we call Centerville, and other folks call it Centreville. There was an infantry division, which was 364, that was stationed out in Phoenix, Arizona. This division of the Army made up of over 3,000 black men. And the guys started causing a little trouble, so they say, in Phoenix. wouldn't do everything they would ask and would ask questions. So they did what some folks refer to as sending them down the river, further south. So they were sent and transferred to the Army base in Centerville, Mississippi, called Camp Van Dorn. These brothers had also at different times been involved in some fights with the MPs. So when they were sent to the camp in Centerville, the military hired a lot of MPs and brought them on the base. In a few days, unbeknown to the black soldiers, they took the firing pin out of the guns of the black soldiers. And one night, instructed them to come to a certain quarter of the camp. And upon arriving there, the military police were ordered to fire and to shoot to kill. As a result of that, over 1,000 of the black military men were slaughtered. Those veterans that survived the hardship, atrocities of the military itself, that were able to return home, they began to do work. They organized NAACP chapters, voter registration campaigns, community groups like the Regional Council of Negro Leaders, the Progressive Veteran League, groups of self-defense and food production, and a system for survival when white store owners would not sell certain food to black people. Well, when we began our sittings in 1960, these World War veterans almost immediately recognized that this was a sudden burst of energy, and they wanted to utilize that energy as a part of their movement. And I'm talking about, again, people like Amza Moore, who put voter registration on SNCC's table. You know, a lot of folks got tables and plates and all that, but don't have much of nothing on it. So it was Amza Moore that put voter registration on SNCC's table. It was not being considered by the organization at all at that time. It was Amza Moore that set Bob down and made the case for voter registration. Amza Moore did the same thing in addition to not just suggesting that we form a musical group. He himself had a musical group that he used as a part of his organizing. Amza said when he would try to get people to come to voter registration campaign, for him to talk about voter registration, people wouldn't come. He said, but when he put those beautiful young ladies with a couple brothers out there and they got off into that beautiful music, like some of what you've heard already, then they would come to hear them sing. So once they would sing one or two numbers, he would say, we're going to take a break right now and give my children a chance to rest a little bit. And that's when he would talk to them about the voter registration campaign. Amza sent Bob to Macomb. Told him, said, get out from up here where I am. I mean, you stand a better chance down in Southwest Mississippi. So that's where Bob went. Hooked up with C.C. Bryant and began to work there because C.C.